welcome to Maine Matters. Time Warner and the Muskie School are very pleased to bring you this very important policy discussion. Maine is deciding whether or not it should have a casino. Our first panel is going to educate you as to why they think it's a very good idea, and we're so pleased to have as our guest these wonderful people here today. Our first guest is Chief Barry Dana from the Penobscot Nation. Thank you, Chief, for being here. And then, of course, we have the governor of the Passamaquoddies. We have Governor Rick Doyle. Thank you for being with us, Governor. The tribal representative of the Penobscot Nation, who has many hats that she wears. She's a professor. She's a retired veteran. She does everything. Representative Donna. Thank you, Donna, for being with us. And, of course, Tom Tureen, who is an attorney and an advocate who's worked with the tribes for a number of years. Governor Doyle, why should Maine have a casino?
Well, I think a casino project would present Maine with a great opportunity in a lot of different areas to generate revenues, to help out the declining school budgets, to help as an economic stimulus to spawn jobs not only in the casino but around the casino and throughout the state. The tribe's committed to working with our neighbors to forward the progress of economic development statewide. And we also look at having the resources to address the drug problems here in the state. So there's a lot of different reasons that we would like to see this project go forward. It benefits the tribe and it benefits all the people of Maine.
So it's a partnership. You see it as a benefit to everybody in the state.
Right.
And how about you, Chief?
As a tribal leader, you look at the tribe's needs, and I see the Penobscots and the Passamaquoddies, people in the state of Maine, there's a lot of similarities. We have a rich history in the state. We have a unique relationship where we've, for many years now, and especially in the last 20 years, we've built on that relationship, and we have needs on our reservations that, as you look at other small towns in Maine, are very similar. We have many tribal people living off the reservation who would like to return home. A project of this nature would give us the revenues to bring our people home and to also to increase our infrastructure so that we can take care of them. We have many talented young people who are going on to education, but they're having to go elsewhere for their jobs. That's right. We want to bring them home. We have employment opportunities that are limited. We have many areas that we are, like everyone else in the state, we're growing, and we want to bring our people home in that growth. We have a unique heritage in the state, and we'd like to use this project to actually promote our culture, to be able to construct a state-of-the-art museum that's also an educational center. There's artifacts all over New England's museums that need to be brought home. Things of this nature, health and housing and education, these are critical. We want to bring our people home, and we want, with our youth, we want to keep them here.
And could you talk about the partnership issue? How does it benefit all Maine people?
Our first partnership really is between the tribes, especially in the sense that the Passamaquoddy and Penobscot tribes are legally joined under the Settlement Act.
Okay.
And we, in terms of partnering with the state, there's an automatic partnership there under the Settlement Act that a project of this nature would have to receive permission from both sides.
Okay.
People of the state of Maine as well as people of the tribes.
Okay. I'm going to go to Representative Loring here. She certainly understands the politics of the state of Maine. All the candidates for governor have said no, no way. Why talk about it still?
Thanks for that question.
Well, it's an interesting question to me as a student of politics. So what happens now? Well, the people haven't spoken, have they?
No, they haven't. And I think it's very unfortunate that the candidates for governor came out against it before they heard the whole story and got all the facts.
Okay.
And I think, that's...
So it can still happen in spite of their positions?
Yeah, I believe it still could happen. And, the legislature thought enough about it to appoint a commission to study it.
Okay.
So I think that, I think it still could happen.
What are some of the issues that you see, Tom, that concern people trying to make a decision about whether or not to support a casino?
Well, I think Donna just pointed to one of the most important ones. The legislature overwhelmingly approved a study commission, and we haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. The state hasn't had an opportunity for that. what we need is a dispassionate, informed debate on this, and we're going to get that. That study commission is going forward, and I think
What are they going to be looking at?
I think the legislation has it look at all aspects of this. I'm interested in this project, one, because I've basically spent my adult life representing these tribes, and I care a lot about self-determination. I care especially about the tribes in Maine having the same rights as tribes in other parts of the country, the same benefits, which under the settlement were to be worked out within the context of this special relationship between the tribes and the states. But I want to talk for a moment about the people of Maine, because we've got some serious problems in this state. We have a very serious budget crisis. Many states have a serious budget crisis, but per capita, we're about the worst in the country in terms of the dimension of our budget crisis. That means cutting teachers, that means cutting essential services. And the problem is that we're already the second most heavily taxed people in the United States. And there are some other very disturbing statistics. We've gone in 10 years from being 27th to 35th in terms of median per capita income in the United States. That means we've gone from the middle to the lower third in just 10 years in terms of where we are in comparison to other states. We are 47th in terms of the amount of money that we spend per capita on research and development. And we're 46th in terms of the percentage of people with a 4-year degree. That goes back to what Barry was saying. We educate our kids in high school. We do a great job of that, and then they leave. And then they leave. Percentage of residents with a 4-year college degree and spending on research and development, those are the two most important indicators of future success in an economy. And so we're in real trouble. We've also lost many of our large businesses, and businesses, large ones, are an important source of philanthropy and reinvestment. And so when you think about this situation, this problem, you say, what can we do? What are the opportunities? Well, Maine is a tourism state. Resort casinos are an important outlet for tourists. The states with which we compete offer this form of entertainment. And what's most interesting to me is that there are over 400 casinos in the United States, but there are only 2 in New England. And what that, you don't have to go to Harvard Business School to know that means that it's an area of tremendous opportunity. Depending on where this is located, this facility could produce as much as $100 million a year in state taxes. It would be the largest taxpayer in the state, created without any subsidy from the state. And of that budget deficit that we're talking about of $500 million for the 2 years for the biennium, this could supply like 40% of that.
Can I just
Yes,
jump
please,
in here?
please.
Yeah, that's a good point. And being where I am in the legislature, you see this deficit. It just seems to have a life of its own, and it seems to be growing and growing. And I view this casino project as being sort of like a kindling to start the economic fire of the state. I mean, it's like we're down to the live coals now. We're losing. You can pick up a newspaper every day and see jobs lost or another business shutting down. So we really need this boost. And I think my fellow legislators really need to take a really
So you
close
think they
look.
might be open to looking at it based on that economic development
Absolutely.
aspect? Chief, how do you deal with the things that your opponents say about crime, about taking money from low income, all the issues that people are concerned about gambling? What's the strategy of the tribes?
I think as far as taking income from people who, you take a look at the lottery.
Right.
People are going to the store to buy bread and milk, and there's this enticement. The numbers that we see, people go visiting their form of entertainment, their choice at casinos, are people of upper level. They set a certain limit on their spending, and they enjoy themselves. We find that in particular native-run casinos, such as this would be, that
What's the closest thing to us that this compares to? Is it Foxwoods? Or?
I would believe it would be Foxwoods.
Okay.
I visited
I didn't
there.
mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
I visited the Oneida in New York, and they tell me the crime that was present prior to casino dropped dramatically.
Dropped?
Yep, because
After the casino?
people's standard of living went up, and the reasons that domestic abuse, alcoholism, drug abuse all went down. People had jobs and they had focus.
So just the opposite of what
Well,
we're
the
hearing.
numbers are very dramatic. Crime has gone down in Connecticut. in this most recent reporting period, and it's gone up in Maine. And the crime in New London County, where those two casinos, Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, are located, that's the largest and the second largest casinos in the world. We wouldn't do anything of near that size here. But in that county, crime through the 90s has gone down, and in the last reporting period has gone down. And in the last reporting period, it's gone up in Maine. Most disturbingly, in Maine, domestic violence has gone up by over 10% in this last reporting period. Domestic violence, you know, I'm not an expert on this, but you don't have to be to see that the source of that is despair and unemployment. Has to be a major motivator in that.
I'm going to jump over to the governor for the last word here on this particular panel. What about towns that don't want it? What is the strategy there?
Well, we're not going to be going anywhere that we're not welcome.
That's your partnership idea. You don't want us, we're not coming there.
Yeah, and we will be pursuing this in areas where it's welcomed and in areas where it makes sense to do. We want to be of the lowest impact that we can to any kind of problems, creating any problems. We're not here to create problems, we're here to create solutions.
And does it need to be in southern Maine, any of you? Because of the economic issue.
Maybe it's best if it's in southern Maine. In New York State, they've just authorized 6 Indian casinos, 3 of them in the Catskills. And the reason that they did that is that they would be proximate to the area population. One of the most important things about this, in southern Maine, 80% of the revenue would come from out of state.
And I'm going to have to stop you, but I'm going to bring you back because we'll get together on the other side. Stay tuned for more interesting and insightful information about a casino from Maine. We'll be back with more of Maine Matters.
But if you complete the journey, you will find your destiny among the world's greatest warriors. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Have you saved a life today?
I took 2 flood victims to a shelter.
I donated a day's pay to help a family that lost everything in a fire.
Have you saved a life today?
I teach a class in infant CPR.
I donated a pint of blood.
Have you saved a life today?
No. But today somebody saved mine.
The American Red Cross. Together, we can save a life.
Hello and welcome back to Maine Matters. Time Warner and the Muskie School are very pleased to bring public policy programming, and today we're talking about an extraordinarily complicated topic, casinos. Yes or no? It sounds easy. Today we're going to have the no panel, people who think we should not have casinos in Maine. I'm going to introduce some very knowledgeable and special guests. We have John Jenkins, who's a community consultant from Lewiston, who has been working on this issue for some time. Welcome, John.
Great to be here.
Representative Mary Black Andrews, who's the co-chair of Casinos No, and she represents the town, or the almost city of York, as it's continuing to grow. And representative, I've made you. Peter Geiger has worked so much on education issues, I've made him a representative in my head. He is a Lewiston businessman. Welcome, Peter, today. And the co-chair of Casinos No, James Bartlett, an attorney from York, who has worked very hard on this issue and has become quite knowledgeable. Where do we start? You think it should not happen? I'm going to start with you. Economic development is given as a reason. You're in the legislature. There's a budget shortfall. Why not?
It will not solve our budget shortfall crisis. In many of the states where they've had this, in Connecticut still has a budget shortfall. For every dollar you take in, you spend out $2 to $3 on either infrastructure or social implication costs. So this will not solve our budget crisis.
Okay. And you're a businessman. Do you agree?
I totally agree. I have offices in 28 cities, many of which have casinos, and some offices where casinos came in while we had the offices there. I have 2 or 3 problems with the whole issue. Number one, whenever you overly simplify something that it's going to solve anything, it obviously doesn't solve it. When it comes into a community, I think one of the important things that a local town should understand is that it changes the dynamics of the community. It does not go back to the way it was. In some cases, and one of my people in Louisiana said the thing you won't realize until after it happens is that the local sheriff, the local fire people, they all get hired by the casino, and all of a sudden you're going out and you are rehiring probably at higher rates, trying to fill positions, and you might be filling, I won't say entire local community public servants, but you're going to lose them to the casinos. I don't see it as being a good, let's say, economic policy. If it was, then you'd want to have 5 or 10 of these things sprinkled around because it's such a great idea. I think that that if you go to Atlantic City, if I was just in Albuquerque, New Mexico twice this year, the Indian population down there has not benefited from the casinos. There isn't a guarantee that a casino is going to make money. I mean, we're all ready to spend the money without knowing what's really going to happen. And quite frankly, the people who go into casinos are not the rich and famous, but perhaps the everyday person who least can afford it, particularly in the state of Maine.
John, I'm going to ask you this question because you're familiar with politics very well, too. All the candidates for governor have said no. So why are we still talking about this? What difference does it make?
Well, I imagine the people who are supporting the casino issue want to make it a referendum issue, so that in fact that
so that the people will make that decision.
Absolutely. So try to bring it to the ballot by mandate from the people.
So you think it's still a live issue?
Oh, absolutely. That's why we're having this discussion now, and it's not over yet. Right. And the thing is, also one of the other issues is that the supporters say that in fact the revenues from the casino will help fund education. And I said there seems something unseemly about that, in that we're trying to bank our children's future on someone else's losses today, because that's what has to happen. Someone has to lose money today for us to sock it away and bank it away for our children's future, for education, if you will. And it just seems something unseemly about that, because we almost kind of would be encouraging people to lose more money because we need to increase the revenues for education. So it just seems it's a strange connection there, and I think it's not the way the Maine should be going. Well, I think we can do a lot better than that.
Casinos, no. Co-chair, activist, I don't even know how you have time to practice law because you're dedicated to it. I mean that as a compliment. You really believe in it passionately. Why?
I still have a practice law.
I know, because I find you there when I call you.
I was dedicated to it from the moment I heard about it. I met Mary at a local Rotary Club meeting literally the day after the announcement was made that they were looking at a casino in Kittery, and both Mary and I looked at each other and said,
not here.
Not here, not now, not ever, and we just started working. And we developed an organization called Casinos Know. We have a number of volunteers working for us. We have a consultant helping us to take our organization statewide.
Okay.
And so we are committed to our motto, which is not Maine, not now, not ever. Because this isn't just an issue for Southern Maine.
It's not just about your towns. Right. It's about Lewiston. It's about all the towns.
It's about the entire state. Okay. Because I say to people when they say, well, maybe it would be okay somewhere else, but not in my town. I say I respond with 2 responses. One is, when you think about this issue, you need to think about it like it's going to be in your town or next door, because that's the only real way to think about the impact of it. And secondly, in our view, it'll never just be one. There's no state in this country that I'm aware of where there's just one. So when people say, well, they can put it somewhere else, it'll come back to somewhere near your hometown at some point. And I don't understand why we've given up on better economic development programs. I don't know why we've decided that this is our last shot at getting some money. It seems to me that if we do this, we're going to shut the door to better economic development. There are studies that have been done that show that other businesses like an MBNA or a national semiconductor won't come to the state and locate in an area where there's a casino, because there's such a problem with loss of employee productivity when a casino is within a 50 to 75 mile range. So we're going to shut the door to good economic development, and we're going to harm the local businesses. And I want to say one thing about who's going to go to this casino, because somebody else brought this up. Statistics show that the vast majority of people who go to casinos across the country, other than Las Vegas, come from within a 50-mile radius. So this isn't the rich tourists from out of state. These are the people who live in Maine who will be spending money at the casino instead of spending money elsewhere.
So you think nowhere in Maine is appropriate, really, because
Correct.
of the issues that you've raised. What about crime? We've heard some discussion about crime rate going down where a casino was.
Going down?
The proponents say that they have seen a crime rate go down.
I'm from New Jersey originally. I've been in Maine 32 years. Originally, I'm from New Jersey, and I have many family members who work in the casinos in Atlantic City.
Oh, yes?
And I've been there many times myself. And I remember the old Atlantic City and now the new Atlantic City. And if you walk right in the immediate area where the grounds are landscaped quite nicely, where the casinos are, very nice. You walk one block off from that main strip, you better walk very fast because, in fact, crime rate has gone sky high, and it's just law enforcement has all they can do to just try to keep up, but they're having a tough time of it. So, so people haven't seen much muggings up here in the state of Maine, many muggings, but those sort of things go along with that, unfortunately, because some people lose everything, and they figure I'm going to take from you what I just lost at the tables, and they go right back at it again. So again, it becomes a vicious cycle, and there's no way out sometimes for those folks. So, you know, monies that come from the casino had better be put aside for Gamblers Anonymous and those sort of things that that will be affecting people's lives, literally.
If it came to Lewiston, would it impact your business in a negative way, you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I really do think that wherever it's located, people are going to go there to have a job, but it's going to be a service job. It's going to be very limited. It isn't like having a manufacturing facility or having an MBNA where there's technology jobs. We don't want to get so drawn into the emotion of this issue to forget that education is going to be the best route, not only for Indians, but for everybody in the state of Maine. We're number one in so many areas in public education. We're the safest state in the United States. Yes, our crime rate might go up, but it's only because we're at such a low level. We don't want to, you work so hard to get it to that point. You don't want to jeopardize what is really good about the state of Maine by bringing in what I consider to be an element, and quite frankly, the small businesses that are in a town around a new casino are going to get moved out by businesses that just cater to the casino. So what happens to those small businesses? What happens to the neighborhoods that are around a casino? It is going to be a problem, but each side can outscare the other side. But the reality is it a good business economic plan? Is $100 million is a drop in the, you know, our rainy day fund was $100 million. It didn't even cover 1 year. I wouldn't want to go to a casino to think that this is going to A, help education, B, help the tax structure, et cetera, because we have far more important jobs. If it's in southern Maine, your unemployment is probably 2% down there. If you throw it up into Washington County or Aroostook County, is anybody going to be able to get that far? It is really a challenge, and you know, I've just felt passionate about this whole issue, although I haven't been formally involved in it. I do believe that it's not a good business economic plan. I really think we got to focus on economic development and education development.
At the same time.
There's also a transportation issue as well. I mean, without the casino, right now, all I ask any citizen in the state of Maine to go to Algonquin right now and just drive down Route 1 and see how quickly you get through town. And that's without a casino. Just imagine how much more condensed that traffic will be. Not mention air quality.
Beach and you could come by train.
Well, again, that doesn't matter because, again, the train can only carry so many people. Again, so then, so again, the fact is, the idea the casino is designed scientifically such that they keep you in the casino. Right. You don't go out shopping at Mary's Candy Shop down the street, if you will, because they have candy within the casino. You don't go to my bed and breakfast because they have beds for you in the casino. Right. You don't park in my uncle's parking lot because they have parking valet people that will park on the casino property. So again, it's a magnet that will keep you there, and that's what it's designed to do.
So it does change the dynamics of a community. And I think
and that's what I wanted to ask Representative Andrews about. I know I saw a picture of you sort of talking with your townspeople at a town meeting. It was a pretty hot town meeting type thing because people were concerned, weren't they? What kinds of comments were you hearing?
They're very concerned about the quality of life, not just in southern Maine, but for the whole state. We have a certain way of life here, and this would alter it forever. This is one of the most serious issues, I think, to face the state in many a year. And I would also like to elaborate on the crime issue. I've done a lot of research. I have a stack of material 2 feet high of different studies. And when you study the crime issue, you have to study it over a period of years. It takes 3 to 4 to 5 years before the crime rate begins to go up, and that's when all the personal resources are eliminated that individuals have. And there was a study done that covered from 1974, 75 to 1995, very thorough on this issue that bears this out.
So you're concerned about a way of life as well as the crime rate, which are all the things that you've touched on as well.
I'm also concerned about Southern York.
And I'm going to have to stop you now, but we'll be back so that we can hear more about this very contentious issue, a casino from Maine. Please stay tuned for more of Maine Matters.
There's this guy, always in my face, shouting at me. I cover my ears, but still him just pushes me. But I love him. He's my coach. My coach.
Be a coach. Be a fan. Be part of it. You'll never be more inspired. Inspire greatness. Special Olympics.
There this guy.
There was a big fire. I couldn't find Mommy. I was really scared and I cried. A grown-up told me that it would be okay. And then I saw her.
60,000 disasters a year all come down to one single terrible moment for someone. Call now, because help can't wait.
Welcome back to Maine Matters. Time Warner and the Muskie School are very pleased to share with you information about should we have a casino in Maine. This side says yes, and this side says no. I'd like to quickly introduce them again. We have Chief Barry Dana, who is from the Penobscot Nation. Welcome back. And we have John Jenkins, a community leader from Lewiston. Thank you, John. Tom Tureen, an attorney and a tribal advocate for years. Welcome, Tom. And James Bartlett, the co-chairman of Casinos No, an attorney in York, Maine. So thank you all. And let's just get started. A quick review. Chief Dana, why should Maine have a casino?
We view it as the tribes seeking the same opportunities as tribes all across America. The Maine tribes now have federal recognition, and these federally recognized tribes across America do enjoy casinos. And I visited them, and I see the opportunities that tribes who, prior to their casinos, living in impoverished state, have enjoyed immense growth and opportunity and brought their people home. And we've visited these. The tribal chiefs of Maine have gone out, and we've come home, and we now advocate to our tribes that this is good for our tribes. It's not only good for our tribes, it's also tribes in Maine. We have found so many similarities with other people in Maine that it's our view that this is not only good for the tribes, but it's good for all of Maine.
You disagree, Mr. Bartlett. Why?
We disagree quite vigorously. Chief Dana knows that. Chief Dana knows that I have a great deal of respect for the work that he does for the tribes, and his commitment to his people is outstanding. Well, we think that for the entire state of Maine, this is not a good idea. It's not a good idea economically. It's not a good idea because it brings in impacts that will reduce the quality of life in the state. It's not a good idea because it presents a potential obstacle to other kinds of good economic development. It's not a good idea because it will affect other businesses and other industries in the state, we think, in a negative way. We think there are better ways to go about economic development. We're committed to helping both the tribes and others in Maine find those better ways. We don't think enough has been done in that regard. And if we do that, we think all of the people of Maine will win.
Let's start with a few high points, and feel free to jump in. You don't have to raise your hand to be recognized. Just jump in as long as you respect one another, and I know you all do. This economic development issue, you say it's good for the state, you say it's lousy, it hurts the quality of life. Why? How can you be so far apart?
Well, if you're talking about issue of people having a difficult time, I agree with the Chief 100% that Native American peoples, Indian peoples here in the state of Maine, the different nations that are here, definitely should have an economic development plan. And I think the state of Maine, the leadership in the state of Maine, should take a moment to stop and look at all citizens in the state of Maine and all people who live on this piece of geographic turf, if you will, and look at opportunities for everyone, not just a certain few, if you will, because there are a lot of people also in the state of Maine who are non-Indian who are also in an impoverished state. So I think that we need to look